Guys, this is a video I made a year ago. Government wants details of your bank account activity. Now, I made this a year ago and it was talking about the fraud prevention bill that's coming in. And they're doing a second reading of it soon. And I read it last night. It's so long. I got up to page 67 and it's worse than I thought it was when I'm actually making this video here. I'll leave the link. Watch this as well. So having read it last night, up to page 67, it's very long-winded, and of course they repeat themselves, and it's a difficult bill to read, and you have to keep going from one section to the other to really understand it. So from what I'm understanding of this bill, just quickly to say a little piece about it. So anyone who's on benefits at the moment in this country, I actually feel really, really sorry for you. That's all I'm going to say. If you're on benefits in this country, if you have ever, I'm going to say it, I'm going to put it out there, if you've ever been fraudulent in any way, like if you've ever taken more than you should have, or if these people themselves, right, have ever made a mistake and overpaid you, you're also in trouble too. Right, so we're talking about this. So in the bill, there's a part where they're talking about banks now have to give the ministers certain amount of information about people. Now, some of this information is 3 months statements that the government can ask for. They can also go straight into your bank account and either deduct a lump sum or deduct a monthly deduct something from your bank monthly to take their money back. And they can do that, and they're saying they can do that. They can also go, if you're not on benefits now, but in the past you've claimed benefits, or there's some fraudulent activities happened, all these people have overpaid you, then what they can now do is go to your employer, and the employer has to take the money from you and give it straight to the government, which is what the banks are being asked to do now, as well as giving 3 months worth of your statements to the banks. And the banks have a certain amount of time in which to do this. And there was a little bit in there that's saying about whether or not you're guilty, whether or not there's some sort of wording in there which made me think that, willy-nilly they can just check anyone's bank. It does make me kind of think that, right? Another thing that I found really interesting in this bill is they're talking about the Crown and His Majesty. So they're very specific in this. They're talking about anything to do with the Crown where there's been issues like this, maybe overpayments, I don't know, anything to do with the Crown and any properties to do with the Crown and His Majesty, right? And also the Houses of Parliament. These rules do not apply to these people, and it specifically states it in this bill, which is like, okay, it specifically states it in the bill. What else did I do? I was reading until late. I got to page 67. It's just, like I said, it's really difficult to understand some of it, but some of it is clear as day. They do say they're not going to be taking the money if it's going to leave you in poverty, blah, blah, blah. What was the other bit I was going to talk about? Just having permission to go, not even needing your permission to look at your details. They're just going to be going straight to the bank and looking at this stuff. So it didn't mention anything about state pensions in there. From what I could see, well, as I said, I've only got up to page 67, so this will be a part 1. But I do feel sorry for anybody on benefits at the moment in this country, especially if you've ever done anything untoward or if you've ever been overpaid by these people, in which case that wasn't your fault. If it was an error by the DWP, they should have rectified it straight away and asked for their money back at the time. It's I think it was, don't quote me, but I'm just going straight from what I remember yesterday reading. I think it was 800 billion overpayment, 800 million. I'm going to quickly check that actually. Just really trying to go off the top of my head. It's 800 something, guys. Let's say 800 million. 800 billion sounds a bit much, doesn't it? So 800 million is wasted by these people overpaying and making clerical errors in their business. So first and foremost, if you're trying to save the taxpayers all of this money, that's why they say they're doing it, clamping down now on these kind of things. Yes, before I forget, this is what I've remembered. So the power to seize your assets, the power to just come into your house and take belongings from you has been given to these special investigators working for the DWP. So basically, they have been given the same rights as the police, it looks like in that paper that I read. So it's if anything happens to one of these workers, it's to be taken into the same way as if there's a serious incident against a police officer. That's what it actually said in that paper. And they can come into your house and they can take your property. So the main things I'm coming away with is the government are going to be asking all banks to issue data about people. The banks have to oblige. The banks have to do it, right? I don't see why the banks have to do it. Because the banks, apart from the Bank of England, the government are not in charge of any of these banks, mate, right? For instance, Santander, banks like that, they are not controlled by the government. So why are these banks going to be given our information to the government? I'd find it appalling. And if they don't do it, they're going to be charged, and there's a certain amount of stuff that will happen to the bank if they don't do it within a certain time frame. But this is just terrible. I think the whole thing is awful. And all of the politicians, all of the royal family, they're all clear. It's actually specified in this bill. So I wonder if they've ever been overpaid or anything like that. Not that they get, well, actually, they're probably the biggest benefit scroungers on earth, aren't they, to be fair? Let's be honest here. So, yeah, guys, heads up. I did warn about this a year ago, and I was talking about this bill. It's a second reading now. I think it's going to be coming in. I'm not sure. It's really, really sad for people that are on benefits, like... And I do feel sorry for anyone on benefits. I'm not on benefits, thankfully. Thank God. And yeah, just look out and look after yourself. And what can I say? This government is twisted. They really, really are. They're saying they're doing it to save money, yet they're the ones that have been giving out money here willy-nilly and making all of these mistakes. I suggest the DWP, right, take some of this money and train your staff. Take some of this money and look at your software. Why are you making so many clerical errors to the point that you're paying out 800 million? Don't quote me, check that figure, guys. I'm sure it's 800. My brain does remember that. So you're giving away, is it 800 million in errors, benefits to people? That's not those people's faults. And if you're going to make those people's lives difficult now because you made those mistakes, I think that's disgusting. Take that money and train your staff. Change your software. If there's an error that's coming up to so much, then there's a problem on the DWP side. That's how you need to look at it. The government need to study the DWP, study how they're working, study what software they're using, study how and when and where these overpayments are being made. And some of the staff need to be pulled up on this. If you're making such errors to the point where it's 800 million, then Houston, we have a fucking problem, don't we? And the government need to retrain their staff.